Big day. Lots of people seem to be salivating at the idea that Justin Trudeau is resigning, but then some people aren't happy because he said he plans to resign and he's wasting all this time so his party can actually find another leader so they can actually provide a viable alternative to Pierre Poilievre. God forbid that the Liberal Party do something to give Canadians an actual choice. Like, how are you mad at that? Like, calm down. People saying dumb shit like the government's going to be completely shut down. Have you read like anything at all about how proroguing governments work? Like, it took 5 seconds for me to learn this morning. Yeah, any new legislation that wasn't already on the table, like there's a lot of stuff that's not going to happen, and that's terrible. And I think, like I've said before, Parliament is like a bunch of kindergarten kids just fighting and not really getting much done. But anything like people are still going to be working, and things are still going to be happening, and passports are still going to get processed, and all that stuff is still going to happen. And so it's not like a shutdown, total shutdown of government. And if things need to be addressed, there are executive orders that could be used to address any new legislation that is it becomes an emergency situation. You know what I mean? So it's not as like crazy as you might think. It's not a waste of time. It's good for the Canadian people. Just take a moment to stop like fucking freaking out about it. You might see that too. Anyway, let's watch this.
Good day.
Hello.
Canadians desperate to turn the page on this dark chapter in our history.
In the arms of an angel, run away with me. Some Sarah McLachlan vibes right here.
And every potential Liberal leadership contender fighting for the top job helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the last 9 years.
All Liberals helped Justin Trudeau break the country over the past 9 years. What part of the country is broken? According to Conservatives, everything, because I see it with my own eyes. There are encampments of homeless people everywhere. Nobody has a job, and all I see is immigrants everywhere. We might as well be living in India, is what we hear. I don't really hear people on the center left talking about that stuff, but it's usually on the right, and all for the good of Canada. But like, for who in Canada? Think about that. I wrote a piece about that on the blog if you want to go check it out. Anyway, Canada's not broken, and this is like part of a playbook that helps people, have somebody to blame for their shitty situation. But let's just keep watching this for a second.
Politicians actively worked to pass into law the job-killing inflationary carbon tax, a tax that Carbon Tax Carney endorsed.
Oh, here we go. The job-killing carbon tax Carney. Like, Conservatives are so good at just branding stuff so anybody can remember it and equate it with bad. Carbon tax, inflation, carbon tax Carney, potentially the next Liberal leader, bad. Or whatever that, they had another ad going against Liberal people say, oh, she's expensive. That's on the provincial level. But it's just all of this attack with no real substance. But let's really think about that. Did the carbon tax cost Canadians jobs? It might have taken jobs away from more traditional industries and moved them into more sustainable, renewable industries. But overall, we're still net up on jobs. And funny enough, if you do some research, crazy, you can come up with actual numbers. Oil and gas industry in 2015, just ahead of the carbon tax, was employing about 190,000 individuals. Fast forward to right now, well, 2023 is where I stopped running the numbers on this thing, and 285,000 people employed in the oil and gas industry. That seems to be more. So, okay, so we got more jobs there. Manufacturing took a hit during COVID. That's been a bit of a problem. Employs way more people. 2015, 1.7 million people employed in manufacturing. Today, 1.8 million or so people. Not a ton of growth there, but also showing a little bit of stability. Energy sector, 2015, 400,000 jobs in Canada. 2023, 697,000 jobs. So like, all of these things seem to be contributing to more employment, perhaps in different sectors. So Johnny, who's been a coal miner for 4 years or whatever other, equivalent archaic kind of practice, our job is not to maintain that guy's job. Our job is to maintain our planet first, to make sure we have a place to have jobs, and then to continue to grow and place people in new jobs that continue that mandate for all countries to make sure our planet is still livable. So if you don't believe in climate change because it's cold today, you might be a fucking idiot. Yeah, ask some questions, Anyway, let's move on. What else does he say?
Look, all supported a law quadrupling the tax over the next 5 years, all voted for or actively supported Trudeau's out-of-control spending, debt, and immigration. All passed Trudeau's housing policies that doubled the cost of homes.
Bro, I can't with this guy. Like, he said a whole bunch in there. Essentially, Justin Trudeau is responsible for inflationary spending, for causing an immigration crisis that arguably doesn't exist in the way you think it does. And also claims that homes have doubled in price because of Trudeau and the Liberals who've broken the country. Okay, so let's just look at one of those things. What are we going to look at? Housing. Of course, that's my wheelhouse. I know housing. I know that housing got more expensive. From 2015, when Trudeau got into power, until today, we've had a 60% increase in the value of homes across Canada. In some places, it's more. In some places, it's less. Remember, there's no such thing as the Canadian real estate market. In this context, it makes sense to talk about it generally versus breaking it down like we do in our market reports here in Toronto. But Justin Trudeau is not responsible for that. Do you think something might have happened over the past 10 years that might have resulted in houses prices increasing? Sure, immigration has a ton to do with that, but somebody who's coming here as an immigrant who you like to complain about, who is working at a Tim Hortons, is not competing with you for that Leslieville house, High Park house, that Vancouver, wherever else you live house. That's not what's happening. Sure, there are high-skilled employees that are coming into the country to work within the various industries that exist in the major cities of Canada, and they might be buying things, and sure, yeah, that's going to add to the demand side of things, and things are going to get more expensive. But at the end of the day, why the hell are we even talking about how much houses cost? Like, it's such an insane thing to me for a government to run on any sort of policy that claims to make houses cheaper for you. Like, how do you believe that? How do you think that's a thing? Let's say we decommoditize real estate. All of a sudden, real estate no longer becomes an investment, wiping out the retirement and the net worth of millions and millions of people. What do you think our economy might look like then? That's the thing. Like, I feel like people on the right that listen to these sound bites don't, like, why don't you just look more into it, understand like the complete picture? Is it because something shitty has happened to you and you're looking for somebody to blame? So much ugliness. Like, I just can't handle it. And like, I'm going to get accused of the same for talking this way. But it's just become such a frustrating moment for me that I can no longer remain calm about it. You know, like the great Lord Drake said, YOLO. Anyway, what else did he say in this? I can't remember. He talked about the cost of homes. He talked about, let's go on.
All Liberal politicians help pass catch and release bail and house arrest for the most rampant reoffenders. Policies that increase violent crime 50%.
So crime is a very serious thing, and overall, statistically, crime has increased on a per capita basis even. Now, a lot of people like to look at big numbers, so I just wanted to see, yes, the number is higher, right? So we have like overall crime is up 40%, but per capita, as in per person, as our population increased, it's up 18%, or was it 28%? Anyway, the number's here. I'll look at it and correct it later in this video. However, yeah, up big time, but why is it up? Is it up because there are some sort of shady policies by the Liberal government to ensure that crime stays high? Could it be that there has been a major event in the past little while that might have affected people to the point of desperation or to the point of insanity or to the point of whatever? None of these are excuses for crimes, but they certainly are reasons why crimes happen. And if you're looking for somebody to blame, you can blame the Prime Minister, but I would like to understand what you think would have been different right now if a Conservative government was in place. That's what I would like to understand. I would like to know what you think would have been different. Would the process of quantitative easing, which is basically lowering interest rates and CERB payment and just all the stimulus that was applied during that deep, dark COVID time where people didn't know if they were going to be able to make their next mortgage, rent, whatever, buy food. During that time, do you think the Conservatives would have just let everybody hang them out to dry? You think that they wouldn't have provided any support? Do you think any of that spending that ballooned our country's deficit to almost $400 billion, do you think the Conservatives wouldn't have done that? Like,
gun crime 116% and hate crime by 250%.
if you believe that Justin Trudeau is the cause of hate crimes increasing by over 250%, I don't know what to say to you. You might want to get a passport or even open up the internet and see what's going on in the world. Fuck.
So given that Liberal MPs and leadership contenders unanimously supported everything Trudeau has done, why dump him now, right before an election? Have they had a change of heart? Is it because they feel guilty that they doubled housing costs, hiked taxes, unleashed crime, broke immigration, forced a quarter of the population into poverty?
If you believe those things, and you believe that these are a direct result of policies put in place by Pierre Trudeau, I'd like to speak to you. Maybe I'm the idiot. Maybe I just don't understand how you can sit here and listen to this and be like, yep, Trudeau did all that, and not understand the absolute insanity of COVID and how that turned all the economies in the world upside down, and that we are in the process of working through that right now. In the interview he did with Jordan Peterson, which I wrote an 8-part series of on the blog, they talk about a big gap between per worker spending in the States versus Canada, which is like $1 US per worker versus 55 cents per worker here. If you read that blog, you'll read that, of course, that spread is there and it does need to be tightened with more spending here. However, look at the conditions that are acceptable to American workers versus Canadian workers. Closing that gap in per worker spending, which, Jordan Peterson and Pierre Poilievre enjoyed talking about, involves less safe working conditions for Canadians, involves less job security, and basically is tricking people into voting against their best interests, considering who the common conservative voter is, who are in these jobs that will be made less safe, who will have less job security because of this spending. And who do you think is going to pay for that spending? Us. We also have fewer people here, so economies of scale are at play. But anyway, what do I know?
No. They continued supporting Trudeau when he did all of those things. No, their only objection is that he is no longer popular enough to win an election and keep them in power. They want to protect their pensions and paycheck by sweeping their hated leader under the rug months before an election to trick you and then do it all over again. Now, while leaderless liberals focus on saving their jobs and fighting.
Leaderless liberals, again, with these like taglines to make it easy for anybody to remember. Liberal, bad, they don't have leader. Oh, God.
Each other for power. The country spirals out of control. An out of control housing emergency, an out of control migrant crisis, an out of control $62 billion deficit, not to mention tariff threats.
An out of control $62 billion deficit, which was nearly $400 billion in 2022 or 2021. 62 billion is far less than 400 billion or 370 whatever billion the deficit was. So I would say that's some pretty serious progress. It's not the 40 billion that was the target. So we're quite a bit off of 40 billion being in the 60s. But nobody ever talks about where it was versus where it is now and where it's headed, right? But again, Trudeau bad, Trudeau broke it.
From the United States. Oh, and another NDP Liberal carbon tax hike kicks in this April 1st. Everything's out of control. And now the government is out of control. This cannot go on. We need a carbon tax election now.
See that? It's a carbon tax election. That's what he's making the issue. Because that's the most important for them, right? Because getting rid of carbon tax, remember those corporations? Oh, I love those corporations because they always pass on these savings to the consumer.
To choose between the NDP Liberal costly coalition that taxes your food, punishes your work, doubles your housing costs, and unleashes crime and drugs in your community, or common sense conservatives who will axe the tax, build the homes, fix the budget, and stop the crime.
Sorry, I almost choked on that bullshit. Think about all the claims that he made right now. You think liberal ideology is idyllic? So he's going to get rid of the carbon tax. Okay, so we're already nowhere near meeting our emissions reductions by 2030. So like we're just at 9% now, where we are trying to get to like 40 or 50% less than 2005 levels by 2030. So that's already not going to happen. So let's just take that off the table now. So we're going to build these natural gas export plants on the coasts, which arguably, actually, I kind of am for something like that. I think we should have done that a long time ago. But there's a significant environmental impact to those things. So like there's some good there. I feel like We do need to be exporting more of our natural resources. I think that there are a lot of environmental concerns that people aren't considering there. But anyway, that's not what I'm talking about right now. How is the federal government going to stop the crime when they're going to be just so much harder on all kinds of drugs? Don't you feel like that might increase crime? Because you're going to categorize more people as criminals now and clog up the courts. And I wonder if this has anything to do with privatizing prisons and stuff like that. I wonder if he's trying to make some money for people. Oh, I wonder. No. The Conservative government is never influenced by external parties. They're always just straight up working for the Canadian. I know, Liberal government getting involved with the SNC-Lavalin scandal. Justin Trudeau painted his face black one time. What a racist. God. It's such bullshit. I just can't even deal with this right now.
Canadians can take back control of their lives and their country. Take back control of our border. Take back control of immigration. Take back control of spending, deficits, and inflation. Take back control of our streets by locking up criminals, banning drugs, treating addiction, and stopping gun smugglers. We'll cap spending, axe taxes, reward work, build homes, uphold family, stop crime, secure borders, rearm our forces.
I don't know if you can read beyond what reward work means, but I think you can say goodbye to a lot of social programs that a lot of people that are going to vote for this guy rely on. Remember in the States? They were like, Obamacare is bad, but you better not touch our, whatever they call it, Healthcare Act stuff. Well, it's the same thing. It's just the Conservatives called it something so people can remember it, right? So then they voted that out. So now millions of Americans won't have any healthcare coverage now. But hey, at least those immigrants aren't taking your job in the strawberry fields. What else did they say here?
Restore our freedom and put Canada first, all with one mission: to bring home Canada's promise that every hardworking Canadian gets a powerful paycheck and pension that buys affordable food and homes on safe streets.
What do you think about that? You think the federal government is going to make your street in Toronto safer? Fuck, we're all doomed. I don't even know what else to say. It's almost like we could not vote unless politicians are directly pandering to us. Fuck anybody else. I lost a job to a brown guy once. Fuck immigration.
Where all are united for the country we know and love. Canada first, Canada last, Canada always. Let's bring it.
How did he say? Always? Always? Anyway, so dog whistle central, just like the Jordan Peterson interview. Again, he's likely going to be our next prime minister. And, I'll be accused of, how can you support Justin Trudeau? I don't. I think the Liberal government has shit the bed, and I think they have for years. But I think in a lot of ways it's because of the obstruction created by the federal government. By the opposition. Professional obstructionists, these guys. This face, mouth like a cat's ass over here. His professional job is to be an obstructionist. Proven with all the filibustering and all the things that have been going on. Nothing's been able to get done. So everybody worried about, government shut down. Well, your boy that you're loving over here has basically ground the government to a halt regardless with all of his party's antics. So what's really getting done now is people are selecting their teams, and we are heading into a US-style environment where the Conservatives would be like, look at this divisive language by the Liberals, and the Liberals would be like to the Conservatives, you're projecting, you're the ones with the divisive language. The Conservatives want to protect children, but at the same time, the Conservatives struck down a bill that would feed children. It's just the hypocrisy is unreal. And if you're going to be like, well, what about the hypocrisy of Justin Trudeau, and you're going to name something about a scandal, how did those scandals affect you? How did that SNC-Lavalin thing affect you? you got people that barely eked out of high school telling the world that Justin Trudeau doesn't deserve to be prime minister because he's only been a drama teacher. Sure, yeah, she's got a couple of degrees, but yeah, he was just a drama teacher. You know, Jagmeet Singh, lawyer, but no, he's not qualified. Why? Because he's got a turban, probably? No, that's not it. You should deport him, even though he was born here in Scarborough. All those things I hear from the right side, you know, and it's not like oh, how can we have different, how come we can't have a difference of opinion and still get along? Well, your opinion means that the people that I know will have rights taken away from them. Your opinion means that, you know, my family who fled from Syria to come here and the last one's just arrived, wouldn't have been able to do that as quickly and easily because you got to protect your border from evil terrorists like that. So, I don't know. I just don't really have time to have any discussions with people that really don't believe in things that can easily be proven and feel like they can take sound bites from a fucking guy like this who literally you think that he's going to bring house prices down so you can afford to buy a house. What's going to happen is your social assistance is probably going to be cut off. And all those other things you rely on. But I guess we'll see. March 26th, we'll have a new Liberal leader. Again, Pierre Poilievre is likely going to be Prime Minister, but I've written a lot about this on the blog, so springteam.ca/blog. Go to it. I'm going to go drink. Let's finish.